Welcome to the Simply Real Life podcast. I'm Sarah, the founder of Simply Real Health, here to help you simplify, amplify, and elevate your life. This show is for those of you who want the real talk on how to live a more intuitive and intentional life, a life that's healthy from the inside out, and one that feels more effortless, aligned, simple, and more alive. We cover it all, from health, wellness, mindset, motherhood, daily habits and rituals, to business and relationships, creativity and growth, and tiny tricks to feeling your best, and the energetics behind it all filled with personal stories, unfiltered conversations, and of course, answering all of your burning questions, all in the way of simplicity and keeping it real, so that you can create your own version of your healthiest life. Let's do it. Hi guys, welcome back to the show. Today's topic, we are going to take a deep dive into the cheat code that I wish that I knew to never being confused about what to eat again. I don't know if any of you are like me in how I used to be, that have always had this desire or want to be healthy. I've always wanted to have great energy. I've always wanted to have stable moods. I've always not wanted to be craving sugar or not needing tons of coffee or caffeine to get through the day. That has always sounded so appealing for me, so much so that I feel like for most of my life, I was constantly in this pursuit of trying to find the perfect way to eat, the perfect foods to eat, the perfect timing to eat them, the perfect combinations to eat them in, even that it became this full-time job to try and follow the constant noise, the constant clutter, the constant stream of information that is coming at us all the time, that's always changing. There is always something new out there, a new trend, a new study that comes out, a new popular way to eat, like the way that all of the influencers are eating on Instagram or people that you follow on TikTok, or new books come out with different research on food. And we're constantly bombarded, I feel like, at so many different points in our day and through so many different avenues with this idea and concept of how we should be eating and what a healthy lifestyle actually looks like. And I know for me, it was years and years and years of following all of this advice and constantly switching and changing and feeling like I always needed to stay exactly up to date on everything and trying and testing every single method, every single diet out there. And honestly, it came from a good place of wanting to just feel good in my body and have great energy and get to a place where I didn't have to be thinking about food so much anymore. And I don't know if any of you can relate, but it felt like this constant job, aside from all the other things that I actually wanted to be spending my time on, to be trying to figure out this puzzle of not only what was actually healthy, but also what was the most healthy for me and what was going to work for my body. I always felt like someone who was a little bit tired all the time. I was constantly looking for coffee or craving sugar to get that little extra boost in the afternoon. And I was very perfectionistic about how I was thinking about my food, that it was very all or nothing. I'd be either all in, doing all the meal prep, doing all the planning, doing all the shopping. And it was this very robotic, rigid thing that wasn't really sustainable. And there would be so many points in real life where it would be like a vacation or a trip or even a weekend or something where it would just throw me off my perfect eating game, whatever I considered that to be at the time. And it would be followed by this wash of, oh, well, screw it all. I've already messed it up. I'll start again next week. And this very intense all or nothing perspective about my food and about my health in general, that if I wasn't doing it perfectly, then it didn't count. Or if I didn't have workouts that were a certain length of time, it didn't count. Or if I didn't get through the whole day eating how I ideally would have liked to eat, then it didn't count. And that mentality, I think, is something that we just don't talk about enough, but so many people really do think like that. and really do struggle with that. And maybe some of you are nodding as you're listening to this, where it's this heavy load that we're carrying around that actually doesn't need to be here. So in today's show, I want to give you some really good tips and ideas of ways to get this started where you feel like you can create a more simple and nourishing and joyful way to eat for the rest of your life. No more extremes, no more fads, no more trends, no more noise, no more clutter, no more of this constant influx of all this information, and having a way to truly streamline it and simplify it so that it's something that once you understand, you'll know for the rest of your life, and B, is simple enough and easy to do in the context of real life so that it's not about being perfect. Like, we need to find a better method and a better way of how to eat that's more sustainable, that's more grounding, that's more real and based on the wisdom of our bodies and the wisdom of real food versus all of these trends and diets. And think about what a sense of peace that would actually give you, of how much more time you would get back in your day, not having to constantly think and adjust and weigh out and measure and always be making these bets with yourself. How would that feel to just be at peace with your body, feeling at peace in your mind, knowing that the things that you are choosing and the ways that you're eating and the types of food that you're eating support your body? They do it naturally. It does it in a way that is so low key and mellow that you actually start to feel that way. You start to feel more calm and you feel more steady and you feel more grounded in your day. I'm talking moods, I'm talking emotions, I'm talking your reactions to things, that we could just bring down the intensity of all of that and the intensity of modern day life. Nobody is free from experiencing stressful things and emotional things and trying to talk to your kids, and there's all this chaos and stuff going on around us. But starting to become more of a woman and a person who can actually start to regulate themselves on all levels. And I believe this really does start with food and the type of food and the quality of food that we're putting into our bodies, because that is the foundation of everything else. What you eat impacts so deeply your energy, your mood, your digestion, your skin, your hormones, your reactivity, how well you sleep, how much coffee you need, how much sugar you crave. I mean, it is all connected. And I feel like so many people get this wrong, where they are constantly chasing symptoms of, I feel tired, therefore I need another cup of coffee, or I feel like I need a boost in the mid-afternoon, so you reach for something sweet or this reward or going for something that gives you a little hit of dopamine. Like, we're constantly chasing and trying to tamp down these symptoms, but the symptoms are happening because of the baseline way we are eating day in, day out, week after week. What you're doing most of the time is really what matters most. And so this is something that I wish that I knew so much sooner in my life, that if I was to go for the most efficient way to feel better, it would be by putting just a tiny bit more effort into my food and the quality of my food. So, in this conversation of how to stop being confused about what to eat ever again, can you imagine that? To not have to worry or stress or have all these emotions or feelings of shame or guilt or then beating yourself up and this intense relationship to food. Imagine how it would feel to be calm and peaceful. And that's really what making this transition to eating real food can do. And that's why it's so powerful. It's not just about eating food that is more simple and therefore it's so much easier for your body to digest and figure out how to decode and how to process and how to turn it into energy quicker. Yes, all of those things are true. When you're eating food that doesn't have a million ingredients or things that your body's not familiar with, that we're not really genetically designed to know what it is, because so many of those things are chemicals or emulsifiers or things made in a lab. When you take those foods out. That is really releasing this weight off your body of having to figure out what to do with those foods, those health foods and those processed foods, things that are marketed to us sometimes as being healthy. But when you actually look at the ingredients, it's not simple and they're not real. And it's so many different things mishmashed together with lines and lines of ingredients and things we can't pronounce. That's how our body feels trying to digest something like that. So it's this immediate act of kindness towards your body, which changes your mentality about how you're thinking about food. Something that you're shoving in to make it through the day, or something that you are giving to your body that is physically nourishing all the cells in your body and being fed so that they can do their jobs quicker and easier and so much more efficiently. That alone will give you so much more energy when you're not constantly weighing your body down with things that it cannot digest, things it cannot understand, and taking this mentality of, I want to be kinder to my body. I want to be easier on my body. I want to be nicer on my body. It's such a different way of looking at things from how most people do and how our culture really talks and teaches about food, which is about punishment or deprivation. And this is something that it has never really been easy to figure out. How do we get that education? We're not taught this in school. We're taught pretty much the opposite. We are taught about all the ways that are maybe funded by the government, which are different industries are subsidizing themselves and paying to get spots on the USDA food pyramid or the USDA plate or whatever the government is suggesting. The way that we eat does not have our best interests at heart. And I know that may be a little bit of a shock to some of you, and some of you may know this already, but there's no one out there that is going to take responsibility for how you should be eating. If you follow the norms of society, you are going to end up in a place that does not feel good. The norms of our society are all about convenience, whatever is quickest, whatever is easiest, move on with your day, food's not important. And it's really so much about the money to be made on the back end, to be completely honest. There's so much money to be made in a country of people who are very sick or needing to be on medication just to make it through the day. And that's the direction that things are headed. And the healthcare industry of getting people on more medications because their bodies are not operating the right way or not feeling the right way, it's like a $4.4 trillion industry. So following along, it's not going to get you to a place of feeling good, of feeling energized, of feeling so full of health and vibrancy. And that's what I want for everyone to feel. But it requires doing very different things than just following along with the norms of society and how we're taught about food and not really thinking too much about it. That's the mentality, is kind of hands off. It doesn't really matter. And we're just obsessed with putting Band-Aids over symptoms versus looking at the root cause. So making this switch and transition to real food is something that will help you get to the root cause of any way that you may not be feeling optimized or may not be feeling great. It's the first step in doing that, and it's very countercultural to want to look at your food in this way, which, by the way, is how almost every other country in the world operates, and not based on what the government is telling them is good for them or bad for them or marketed to them or whatever trend or diet or fad is coming out. You don't know the why behind those things, why they're being pushed, why they're being marketed, who benefits from them. But the why behind eating real food is something that is so pure and so innate. Our bodies have been eating this way and designed to eat this way for thousands of years. It's getting back to that wisdom and getting back to that simplicity without all the noise, without all the commotion and all the fancy, sexy, quick fixes and the extremes of eating that we're taught, and putting that aside to start to embrace something that is so much more balanced and peaceful and joyful and steady and consistent, and can be this consistent force of good in your life, but it really does require being willing to do things a little bit differently than the norm. If you look around at the norm, I don't know about you, but I do not want to be average. I do not want to be where most people are with their health. I want to feel like I have more control and more say, and I have a choice in the matter of how I feel versus blindly following other people, other things, fads, trends, whatever it may be, and starting to take back a little bit more of that control, having a little bit more of an empowered mind around it. That like, this is something I can do. This is simple. This is something I can change, that I can be in charge of, that truly impacts how I feel every single hour of the day. It's really, really powerful. One of the best suggestions I can give to you on this is that you take the time, and it's really not that much time, but you take the time to get educated about what real food is and about what it's not. I would say the majority of people, even in this community, even who have been around, or you've had my cookbooks, or you feel like you do know some things, I would say the majority of people who think that they are eating healthy are actually not really when you actually look at it. And when you start to learn, and when you start to observe more, and when you start to put together some patterns, what you gravitate towards and why you gravitate towards it, it's fascinating. And so taking this tiny bit of time to do something that we all should have learned in school or as kids, but now in this generation, this is such a different conversation because now we know there's another way. And so for you to take that on and take a little bit of ownership in that, of figuring out how to eat, not only will that impact you, but that impacts every other person around you that's younger. It affects every other person around you, no matter their age. Once you know this stuff and become a wiser consumer, there's no way that that doesn't start to rub off on other people. It's wild. And I see it all the time with one-on-one clients. I see it all the time in my groups. I see it all the time where one person in the family will start to learn some stuff, and then just by nature, without even having to say anything, just by you being more aware of maybe some of the things that you're buying or making little swaps or adjustments here over time, that the people around you also get healthier, kids included. Think about that. If you could learn this stuff as a child and that became your normal way of eating, you would have the most regulated blood sugar naturally. You would be the most well-fed with nutrient-dense food, meaning your immune system would be naturally strong and steady. That you would love and enjoy food because you actually think it tastes good, because your taste buds were allowed to develop in ways that were open to healthy and real and nutrient-dense food. Like, what a gift that would be to not feel like you're fighting against yourself or always looking at processed food thinking, oh, that looks so much better or that tastes so much better. But when you are raised or you know this type of information, it changes physically how your body and how your genetics are formed. It changes our DNA based on the choices that we make about how we're eating and the things that we bring into our homes. So it's not just you, but there's also this magic ripple effect that this could have, which is why I feel so passionate about this, because I honestly spent 15 years of my own life not feeling this way, but wanting to so bad. And I just was not educated. I didn't know. There was no place to really learn that. And so that's one of my biggest passions, is helping people figure out what this is and do it in a quick and simple way. And this is exactly why I created the Get Real program. I don't know if any of you saw this, but in the last couple of weeks, I just released it and the feedback has been incredible, of people being like, oh my gosh, this is such a relief. I could learn this in a day if you wanted to. I say under 14 days, you could learn everything about real food and know in every situation how to pick the best options, what they are, what that looks like in terms of the context of eating out, eating in, the stuff that you buy at the store, how you're looking at a menu, to be able to decode quickly and easily and pick things that are at such a higher vibration for your body is such a gift. And that's what people have been saying. I've had 6 different people say, I binged this in one day. And now I feel like I fully understand what to look for and what to avoid. And it answered so many questions. And there were so many things that I thought I was doing the right way, but actually turns out is so different than what I thought. And that's exactly how I felt too, of wait, really? I've been doing this completely opposite or wrong or a little off, like a little misguided the entire time for decades of my life. And I wish that there was something like this and like Get Real that could have helped me simplify it all in one place so that I could fully take it in, understand it, and then start to put it into practice in my real life. I don't think I fully understood the true impact that that would have on every other area of my life. I think about it now, and the time when I started to learn about real food was such a turning point in my life because I think it represents so much more than just food, but it represents starting to have a deeper confidence in your own self and in your own body. It's like this feeling of so much more rooted and grounded instead of you are on this roller coaster ride all day, whether that's blood sugar or constantly feeling like you're being tempted by different foods out there, this up and down, being pulled in every direction, feeling like you are never really the one in charge of your body versus life after real food feels completely opposite, where you feel so much more in charge of your own experience, in charge of how you want to feel that day, and knowing the foods that can help support that. And what a switch that is. And I think of all the downstream effects that that had to be more fully and internally confident in my food and in feeding myself, and therefore confident in the way that I could show up to things and feel fully present and fully there and not distracted and not dragging and not always trying to manage my energy for that day, but having this sense of steadiness and peace. And I have no doubt that because of that are so many of the reasons why I then had this deep sense of confidence in myself to start a business, deep sense of confidence in myself to knowing and trusting that wisdom more than outside information or outside opinions. And I feel like the way that it has changed my own life has been so massive. I mean, I think about the downstream effects of how meeting my husband, how that changed his life and the way that he eats, and then the ripple effect through his family and through his friends. And then I think about our children, of the way that they will grow up with two parents that are educated about food in a way that won't change, to like really create this sense of balance and joy, which is also so important. It's not about eating perfectly, but this sense of food is beautiful and it's amazing. And it's this superpower force in our life that we get to have and use and experience life this way. I mean, it just changes everything. So this is something that I want everyone in this community to be able to do and just have access to this information because of how I believe it will change your life. Not only in the next couple weeks as you start to test things out in the next month, and you can do this all at your own pace, but at whatever time and space and season it feels good to you, that you know that you have a way to tap into that and learn it and then implement it quickly with recipes and ideas and all of the real life stuff included. This is not about being perfect, but truly how to find a way that is so much more simple and nourishing and functional and long-term and sustainable, because I believe that shifts so much else that follows after it. So if you haven't checked out Get Real, just a little side note, it's there for you. And that's why I created it, is because I feel like this one tiny thing impacts so much of your life and who you're being and how you show up and how you value yourself and what you're putting in your body and how you're feeding your cells and how you're just nourishing your life really depends on this foundation. This is something that is so great to know and be aware of, even if you have family or friends or people you know with kids or people that you know that are putting so much time and effort into wanting to feel good. This is my wish, is that you have and can experience this sense of deep, grounded nourishment from the inside out that then has this trickle down effect to every other area of your life, of feeling that sense of peace and that sense of calm and that sense of confidence in knowing who you are and what you need and the things that you need to get there. I hope that this is encouraging to hear, that this is something that for me was something I did not have figured out. And now being able to look back, it's why I feel so strongly about sharing this and sharing the experience of how I used to experience daily life versus the way that it is now, because the two are so wildly different. And I think that everybody deserves to be operating at such a higher level, no matter what you're doing through your day, no matter where you're wanting to pour your time and intention and energy into things, having it be this well-sourced fountain of constant energy and knowing how to get there and knowing how to stay there, it can change your life. So I'll put more details in the show notes if this is something that you resonate with, some of these feelings, because I have a feeling that this is something that can really, really help. And that is my hope. I hope this was encouraging. I hope there's something in here that sparked your interest or made you maybe think slightly differently or reevaluate. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Like, what is your body feeling like most days? What is your mental conversations? How are the thoughts in your head? What ways are you talking to yourself every day? It's all connected. Does your nervous system feel frazzled? Do you constantly feel like you're in fight or flight? Do you feel like cortisol is pumping through your veins and you always feel overwhelmed and you're kind of running from one thing to the next and you feel like food is this last minute sort of afterthought that you know you should be doing better, but you're not quite exactly sure how to do that without it feeling like a full-time job? Then this is for you. If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, make sure you're subscribed to the Simply Real Life podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and maybe share it with a friend or two. That would mean the world.